I'm interested in knowing, who is Ron Howard?
He's a famous movie star.
Who is this Ron Howard?
Well, I don't know. You mean there's more than one? Well, see, I don't know how to answer that question. He's probably got many different dimensions and positive and negative things. In other words, he's a human being as far as I know. As far as I know, he's a human being subject to all the pluses and minuses that the rest of us have.
It's a great answer.
But he's unique because there's not anybody else exactly like him. Just that's true of everybody, right?
Mm-hmm. Right. Can you share a little bit about the meaningful work that you do?
So that would be presuming it's meaningful.
Yeah.
But you see, that's the judgment of others, not of me.
Okay.
Right?
Do you feel that your work is meaningful?
But see, and some of the things that, see, even calling it work is another question, right? So there are things that I've looked at in life and made temporary judgments about and so forth. Basically, my basic character is learning. I mean, that's been true forever. I mean, as far back as my memories go. And I've been very fortunate in the people I've met who have supported that in different ways that they didn't even necessarily appreciate. Okay, so I'm an only child, which has certain effects on you for the rest of your life. One thing being that I never had, obviously from that description, brothers and sisters to share with and play with and all that, such as my children had. But it also meant that I amused myself. And so the result of this is I'm often alone, but never lonely. Okay? Because I figure it's up to me to amuse myself anyway, so why would I be lonely, right? And that's been true way back from my childhood.
It seems like you're just, I see you walking around with a recorder around your neck. You write things down. Yeah. You're always curious about everything. You're
yes.
all the time. You're always learning. And
yeah, it's really true. As a matter of fact, I have the thing I learned most recently, which I made a note of here, which sounds very strange. Okay. Let me make sure I got it here. Yeah. Carl Woodward just wrote this book commenting on his many interviews with our president, right? And he was interviewed, I think it was only last night, maybe 2 nights ago, by the CNN guy. What's his name?
Anderson Cooper, maybe?
Anderson Cooper, yeah. And talking about the book, right? And in the middle of this interview, they had a discussion about was he about what was there any anger in some of these discussions that he had, right? And I just happened to be listening to this, and Woodward says, well, Bernstein, who is the guy who worked with him on the in the earlier disasters, and
right?
He said this. He said that Bernstein used to say, "Anger is pain," and I wrote that down because that's going to see. I keep a list of all the things I've that I've picked up, my wisdom, wise sayings list, right?
Yeah.
So So just think about that. Anger is pain. And that's pretty smart for Carl Burns. Think about how many times you've seen someone angry, and this notion that it's like pain to that person. It's as if you know, if you kick them in the shin, they'd be, or if they got something fell out of the closet, there's no other person. They're in pain. And it's like that when anger is provoked by another person. And I never thought about that before. When you see an angry person, I would not have had the insight that Bernstein had about anger is pain.
Yeah.
So I keep lists of these. I keep notes of these things, and I find a lot of them. I've got probably several hundred. The last one before that really impressed me, and it was about 2 weeks ago, and that was this. It said, how to put it? Yes, time. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Time is a great teacher. Unfortunately, it kills its pupils. Think about that, right?
Yeah.
So that's right. And the longer you live, the more you learn. But ultimately, the price is you're going to die. And that was Berlioz. Who would have guessed, right?
Yeah.
But I thought that was great,
Yeah.
because you say the first half and you say, yeah, that's really right. And then, unfortunately, kills his pupil. Very great insight, right?
Right.
And it ties up with what Shakespeare said about 7 ages of man and stuff like that. So there's all these, and you see, it's not like the learning, my desire to learn is about something. In other words, I don't want to, it's not, if it's about showing horses, I want to learn or I don't want to learn, right? It's just learning.
Right.
And it's great, I mean, and
as you taught decision analysis, right? Did you feel, or as you created it, right? Did you find that in some ways it was a framework for thinking about all of the information you were receiving from the world?
No, only about decision making. That's why it's amoral. See, not immoral, but amoral.
Right. But I mean, in the sense of like,
so you could have all kinds of behaviors of people. They're trying to get them to part with their property and telling them lies and all this.
Yeah.
Right. Applies perfectly well to that, as well as to someone who's trying to help people in a certain way.
Right.
And so there's a sharp, you see, arithmetic doesn't give a shit about the numbers you're adding.
Right.
2 + 3 is 5, period. Whether you're saying, here's the number of people I saved this week, or here's the number of people I killed this week. I mean, that's obvious, and yet people don't think about it.
What inspired you to narrow all of this stuff you were learning into like really devoting your life to the field of decision science and decision analysis?
That's only part of it. See, then we got into ethics, right? Which is at least maybe even more important. And when you get into society, you're talking about, when you read the paper, you see, and you see people on both sides of issues. I mean, once you've had the whole treatment, which, and I guess you want to put religion in there, whatever attitude you're going to have about those things, right? But you look at the newspaper, and it's never simple because every story has another layer behind it. Okay. In fact, it's been said that the first victim of war is truth.
Yeah, for sure.
But it's also a political war of politics, right? And we see that, right?
What does that say about our thinking?
It says that you have to have thought about all the things we've talked about. You know, the logic of it, the ethics of it, and then the the political beliefs you have, that which is different from ethics. It's more subtle than ethics in some way, but you have to have a thought about it. You have to be able to think about it. That's a better way to put it.
And do you feel like you have to be willing to think about it and think about divergent perspectives or divergent data from what your belief is?
I think that the what let me say respond to that. And it's not about finding the right story. It's seeing the whole set of interactions and everything. In other words, it's not like if you look at if I look at Republicans, say, boy, those are idiots, everything they believe in, or I look at Democrats, say, yeah, it's not so simple, right? And you can see that coming out when particular issues arise. And what I find, remember I said, truth was the first victim of war. I find that's politics. It's, even though you think you're getting the whole story, that's your side, there's more than that.
Right.
You have to expect that.
Do you think part of the reason we want to hear one side or hear a particular point of view and not seek out the other side is because it makes us uncomfortable?
Oh yeah, I think so. You see, the life is not simple. It's complicated. There's two sides to that's why we have trials, right? I remember when I was a teenager, one of the things, a young teen, maybe 13, I went to a civil trial just to see what was going on. And I remember the story. It was somebody's a dispute between a homeowner and a person like a worker who had done something for them. And there's a dispute now about, was it done right and who has to pay whom and all that. And what I remember is, you see the sides are put on, one after the other, right? And you hear one side, right? And you say, oh yeah, Bob, Scott, this is the best story I ever heard, don't even have to see the other side, right? And then you hear the other side. Wow, that nobody said that. Oh, he did. You see, you realize in every trial, it's not, these things don't go together, they differ. And that difference is how much human nature and how things are usually done and so forth. So you can see that it's not like every jury should be able to reach a verdict right off the bat. There's a lot of beliefs you have to have about whether people are telling the truth or whatnot.
I'm just going to switch a little bit here.
Good.
So I feel like I was a recipient of a tribal oral tradition since I was a tiny child around decision making, right? And
it would be hard to avoid it.
Yes. It's an interesting tribe. Maybe we should all have a support group. And and over my lifetime, you've mentored me in various times, and
I apologize.
yeah,
Believe you astray.
about, through many of my decisions, and ultimately, in some ways, that ultimately actually related to self-trust.
Good.
Right? Like my self-trust. If I'm
That's
making a
very
decision.
important.
And
I think you put your faith in the right person.
yeah. And I think in all of that, right, it's a really human experience to make a decision and then live an outcome, right? And you can calculate numbers, or you can intuit, or whatever, and you can lean into those choices you make. And sometimes you have a great outcome, and sometimes you get a curveball. And I'm wondering how you might advise people today who are facing tough decisions. You said when this child or any future children, when they're ready to go to college, if you can't pay for them to go to college and your parents can't help you pay for them to go to college, I will pay for your kids to go to college.
Right.
So now what is your decision? And I said, I'll stay home. Like,
okay.
it took, and I'm just wondering what that mechanism is that helps us, like, bust out of our limiting beliefs or our assumptions about something. And that's a perfect example of somebody just busting it out by shifting my thinking from here to here. You didn't say you have to stay home. You didn't,
No, you don't have to.
No, we were just having conversation, right? But for some reason that helped me think differently about the choices I could make.
Yeah,
So
just
how
having wider range of alternatives that you can then evaluate, right?
Right. So is there any kind of general advice that you have to help, or questions or anything like that would help people bust out of those limiting beliefs?
Well, why did this bust you out of your original beliefs?
I think that part of what it did is shifted me from thinking 20 years down the road,
Yeah.
or 18 years down the road.
Yeah.
And it wasn't that I didn't still consider those things. It shifted my thinking into the moment of what do I want.
Okay.
And it helped me let go of that future, because that is so uncertain about what that would even look like. So by saying I'll pay for them to go to college, right?
Mm-hmm.
I went, wait a second, like why am I basing my decision today on 18 years from now?
What really freed you to be comfortable in making a decision? That's the question we're trying to. What is it? Is it just thinking about a different way, or is it a insurance that you had? You see what I mean? I remember having.
I think maybe it was I would say it's some of both, right? Like if I really screw this up.
This discussion with Jim about what he's worried about, whether you're going to go to college, right?
Right.
Okay, and we had the same discussion.
Oh, interesting. I didn't know that.
Yeah. Interesting, yeah.
Yeah,
That may be the secret of it.
Is what, the insurance or the?
Well, of making, maybe what this says is that I'm trying to figure it out with you, right? Is it the potential generosity you might face or not?
What do you mean?
Well, that makes it easy for you, right? I mean, why did this conversation, what we really get now, what was it about the conversation that made you feel free to do what you did? Was there just rethinking it, or was it more specific than that?
I think it was because it was instantaneous.
Yeah,
That was the moment I made the choice, right?
because there's two lessons I guess you could learn. One is just realizing that, and I guess it's the feeling of a guarantee versus it's gonna work out. You know what I mean? It's one is, for example, I have something called long-term care insurance.
Right.
Okay,
Hmm.
and it's not cheap. Uh, and suppose you can't make the simple case, right? Suppose you're so ill you can't take care of yourself. This is the other part of Shakespeare, right? The Shakespeare
Hmm.
thing. You start as a baby, a young man, and then finally end up as a baby. So the difference between being a kid that's 6 months old and a man that's 90 and can't change himself or get out of bed, same deal, right? They're just to be taken care of just like a baby, and that's called elder care or maybe assisted living or maybe hospice or something like this, right? And so it takes you give up control of some of your money in exchange. It's like any other insurance, right? Uh, People have this attitude that insurance money is wasted because your car didn't have an accident or
Right.
your house burned down.
Hmm.
If I'd only known, I never would have bought it, right?
Right.
That kind
Right.
of, right?
Right. Right. If
But
only life is
it's
uncertain.
that peace of mind. Yeah, yes. It's good. It's the peace of mind of having it when you don't know whether you're going to have that problem or
Right.
not, right?
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah,
So the question is what you did for me insurance in a way?
yeah. Because you see, that could have been my intention,
Hmm.
but you know, if I'd gotten hit by a truck, probably, I mean, we didn't put it down on paper even, like it was a contract,
Hmm.
right? And of course, it was only going to work if I'm bound to do it and have the resources to do it and so
Right.
on.
Right. Right.
But but you knew that, but yeah.
Yeah, I think
But you see,
there was also something about
having,
it that shifted me from like, why am I borrowing worries from tomorrow today?
well, but you do have to. So that's
You
what
do.
but you see, it's not a worry. See, I'm not worried about having an accident in my car,
Right.
right? Not one of my worry. Oh shit, No, I mean, it's part of life. I'm not worried about falling down the stairs and injury. I mean, not that it couldn't happen, right? But see, the worry doesn't. I keep telling this to Francine. I said when you worry about something, you pay twice. Once when you worry about it, and then if it happens, right? I mean, you think about that, right? Every worry you've got, it's like you're paying twice for it.
Right.
There's no worry does nothing for you, nothing at all.
Right. Right. But I think
In
for
other words, am I worried about going blind? I'm not worried about going blind. Would I like it? No, I wouldn't like it. Could it happen? Yes, it could happen, but I'm not worried about it.
yeah, but I think maybe there's some sort of threshold for me of like, wait a second, I got plans, I got backup plans, and even though there's a certain uncertainty that nobody would be able to help me, that was a relief enough to shift into um, focusing on what was
Well,
right in front of me.
but look, see, but just think about when you look at the future, I mean, suppose that your husband had been killed in a plane crash, not probably less likely than anybody else, if you get right down to it. Would you have been secure going forward or not?
Yes.
Okay, because he had insurance.
Yep.
Okay, so you planned on that, right?
So I'm back to the original question of like, how can we help people bust out their thinking? Because I think there was another piece of there was something directly in front of me that I valued, right? My child.
Yeah.
And there was an aspect of putting things in the order that they should be put in.
Okay, now this was your first child, I
Yeah.
presume. Is that?
Yeah.
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 Okay.
So I think you also helped me think about what I wanted. You know, I mean, you asked me other questions like, you know, are you excited to be a parent? You know, those kinds of things. I knew nothing about parents, being a
I
parent.
think you knew exactly what you wanted to do.
So then we're back to self-trust.
Yeah. Well, you've always had great self. Look at the things you've done, right?
Mm-hmm.
You've always relied on yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So is there any wisdom for people who are struggling with just believing, like relying on themselves?
Well, I forget who taught me this, and I'd like to remember, but I'm not. And the idea was when you're talking to someone like we are now, I would say injection of okay to, and then you fill it in, right? Injection of okay to home raise those children, right? With whatever it takes, right?
Right.
And that's freeing. It's sort of, but it's just having that thought, right? If you had the injection of okay to whatever you're worried about, to get married, to go to graduate school, to become a racing driver, right? See, just some people sort of need to give themselves permission to do it.
Mm-hmm.
They're not
I
really
like
afraid
that.
of it. Yeah, injection of okay, and it really works.
Yeah. I like that idea. Because I think actually I think that is what you did. You
Yeah,
actually
I
gave
think
me permission.
exactly what, because the point is you were not sure that was going to happen, were you?
Mm-mm.
Because I could have died, and
No.
all kind a lot of things could have killed me, which didn't, right?
Eating breakfast. Eating breakfast or giving a lecture.
Yeah, that'll do it. Yeah, that'll do it, right? And yeah, there were two things that really didn't: eating breakfast on a cruise ship, and the other was giving a lecture at a company in Oregon in a chair. So first was the broken back, the second was the broken neck, right?
Who knew?
Who would have
Not the
guessed?
50 years of motorcycling.
Yet I rode a motorcycle for 50 years, right? It's just not fair. Life is not fair.
I think it's so, okay. So I actually want to ask you, I have to, I have a physical therapist.
No, you don't.
At
You
3:30.
choose to.
I want to ask you a couple more questions about resiliency because
you no have tos, do you?
no,
no,
there are no have tos. I'm choosing actually to go to the physical therapist because my leg hurts.
Okay, that's wise.
Yeah, I like that. Maybe replacing language from I have to.
Oh, it makes all the difference in the world.
Another word I have almost completely eliminated from my vocabulary.
What's that?
It's the word should.
Yeah.
It's not very useful.
You just say I will, right?
I could, I will, like.
Or I won't tonight, right? Depending on whether you're hungry or choosing to lose weight.
Right. So I wanted to talk a little bit about resiliency and courage and strength. Because
courage and strength.
yeah, because you have used decision analysis to analyze important things in your personal life.
Oh yeah.
And you've had some great outcomes and you've had some tragic outcomes.
Yep.
That created loss.
But the tragic outcomes were not related to any decision. Mm-hmm. So you may look at Robert. You know, if he had stayed another 2 minutes having a cup of coffee, or gotten out 2 minutes faster, right? He wouldn't be dead. I mean, that's 2 minutes makes all the difference. The traffic and the place where the truck came across the road and killed all of them, right? You can't live life like that, right? I mean, that's the uncertainty of life. That there's a lot of stuff you can't control. The diseases you get in many cases, accidents that happen to you, ailments, you know, that are life-threatening. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's called the uncertainty. You can't deal with it. You'd be prudent, you know, in terms of what you do, but you wouldn't want to live a life that's minimized your chances of dying. You wouldn't even climb up a flight of stairs, probably.
Great breakfast.
Yeah.
Well, and I mean, that's a huge loss, right? And great sadness.
But I've told you, I believe my maybe this real extra resiliency. You know, have I told you the story of Robert? And we talked about that and his death.
I'm sure we can go ahead. I would love to hear.
The idea about my last phone call with him.
Oh, remind me of that.
Okay, well, he and I had long calls on the phone, yak, 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 yak. And this was when he was planning to go off on that trip. Mm-hmm. Okay. So I think it was the next day he's leaving, and this is to say goodbye, and they're going to go off on this camping trip or something like that. And I always said to all my kids, whenever we depart, I love you, right? Both ways, right? And so at the end of the call, when I'm hanging up, I said, I love you, Robert. And he said, love you, Dad. And I said, Robert, you never know when will be the last time we say that to each other. Have I told you that before?
I think a while ago.
You see, and I don't know why I said that. I had no premonitions or anything. But I realized there will be a last time that we say that to each other. And if or else, and it could be any time. In fact, that was the last time.
Mm-hmm. How do you feel about that?
I know we ended in the right way. Okay, and so he went off, and you know, it was probably 2 weeks later that the accident happened, and the cop arrived at the door saying, "Are you Ronald Howard?" You know, which is trying to at night. You know, the last thing you want is a knock in the middle of the night. Okay. So here's how I can get beyond, right?
Right.
Here's this. Suppose someone had come up to me and said, how would you like a Lamborghini for a month? You know,
you like cars.
One, yeah, you know, it's $500,000 car or something, right? And you know, free. I said, oh, that'd be really nice, right? And so I fool around, show it to all my friends and all of this, and then the end of the month, they take it away. Now, do I say, I'd rather not have had it? Or do I say, well, I'm glad I had it for a month? And that's how I feel about losing Robert and his family. I'd rather have the pain of losing them than never to have had the pleasure of knowing. We remember the positive things that he added to our lives. And that's true of anybody. I mean, Anna Maria and the kids and all that. Yeah, but
Yep.
that's, that's the,
So
no
what's
guarantee.
interesting is you talked about having a policy of always telling people you love them, right?
No, only the people I love.
Yes.
I mean, I'm not saying, hi, Joe in the street, I love you. No.
No,
See,
only the people.
Same with my mother and father and me. I had no question, but they loved me.
Yeah.
No matter what's going on. I mean, no question about it, right?
I don't have a question about that with you.
No, there's no reason to. I mean,
the shit hits the fan, I'll call you.
If you love people, and you feel like you should, then you better start loving them.
Right.
It costs no more.
I think there's also it's like a policy or an intention in your life to embrace those people that you love.
Absolutely, right.
And it's
treat them like you love them. It's very simple.
It seems simple, but sometimes it's hard, and it's led to resiliency for you.
Yeah, right. Well, you see, I have lost Robert and his family, of course, but then I lost my first wife, Polly, my second wife, Joyce, and neither of them were expected. You know what I mean? It's not like I'm planning. No, like boom, right? I mean, with Polly, it took many years, but it started out, very good result of the operation, but then fading over 10 years or so. And then with Joyce, she went in at the hospital and was happy and, wasn't saying I'm ready to go and all this kind of stuff. And then she never came out again, never spoke to anybody again. Right. And Jeannie Kawajian went to talk to the doctor who operated and all that. And basically she had a heart attack in the middle of a bypass operation, which
a routine surgery, right?
Oh yeah. I mean, it's relatively routine, but not for her. But in a sense, that meant she never lived in fear of dying, which is a blessing, right?
Yeah. So it sounds like the way that you it sounds like there's also an aspect of your resiliency where you find great joy in your life right now.
It's up to me to find the joy. Okay, now it's funny you should mention that, because Francine moved to Los Angeles last Monday. So it's another one of these big changes in life.
Yeah. Big moment.
And I think it was a good decision for her to do this, but it's a big change.
Yeah.
So instead of seeing her every weekend, of course the Corona thing made that more difficult. Right. But instead of seeing her every weekend for years, right now, may drive down there sometime, right, when it's possible.
So what are ways you're choosing joy today in your life?
I'm talking to you.
What a nice answer.
Yeah, I mean, no, but I mean it. I mean, it's not like this is some pain that I have to go through, right? Yeah. So it's, you find joy in in new things.
Do you feel like it's I think that there are times when people live in a state of expectation, like I want this to happen or I want that to happen or whatever, right? And
Yeah.
and then there's another side to that of living with expectancy, like I wonder what's going to happen. Ooh, this seems interesting. I'll try this.
It's gonna be fine. You know, that's my attitude, right? And there's always something to learn and new things to add to my list of wisdom and stuff.
For your children, for your grandchildren, for your great grandchildren, for future generations, is there a message that you have for them?
It's going to be very different for those future generations, right? I mean, you can see that even now.
Mm-hmm.
See that the the idea of dialing a phone is lost on young people,
Yeah.
right? I mean, even as a metaphor, right? I mean, it, even things like clock faces. They're it's we haven't even seen how we've changed just in decades because of the difference in life that we've had. And as a matter of fact, when I'm listening to the new music, what is it, the Grammys and all that, right? Boy, it's past my head. I have no interest in it at all. The latest ones, people going crazy over it. I'm old-fashioned, right?
Right. So things will be different. What other message do you have?
Oh, they're making it sound like I'm a prophet. No,
Well, I think you have wisdom, Ron. I think you've lived a enormous.
wisdom, but accumulating. See, I don't want to. Wisdom is subject to It's like the warranty, subject to change at any time, right? As you get more experience, but I used to think that, but I don't think it anymore.
I think one really interesting thing that you said that I just want to restate is
Yeah.
that wisdom is accumulated and that it's going to be okay.
Well, I guess so, but remember, it has to be evolved. In other words, something that made perfect sense in the past and may be very good advice, but may not be appropriate anymore. Right? Just look at the COVID story, right? Uh, you know, go out and get fresh air. Well, maybe not. Travel a lot. I mean, come on. It all depends on the situation.
Right. Right.
The advice that stands the test of time, sort of regardless of time, is very hard. Maybe love would be a good one. Right?
Yeah. Tell me more about that.
Just love. Yeah, loving is good for you.
Yeah. The Beatles got it right.
Yeah, love is all you need, as they
Yeah.
would say, right?